Okay, let's think about a student's education for a second. You can kind of picture it as a journey, right? There's a start, there's a finish, and there's a path you follow to get there. But what happens when the map is blurry? What if every single guide is using a slightly different version of that map? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today, the curriculum conundrum.
And this whole thing really boils down to one central question, and it's a big one. When it comes to teaching, how much freedom is too much freedom? At what point does the creative freedom we want our teachers to have actually start creating a bumpy, inconsistent, and maybe even unfair ride for the students?
And that leads us to what we can call the freedom paradox. You see, we all agree that giving teachers professional freedom is a good thing. It's a great intention. But weirdly, it's had this unexpected side effect, a system that's full of inconsistency. So, what do we even mean by professional autonomy? Well, in a nutshell, it's a teacher's freedom to decide how they're going to teach. It's about what examples they use to make a subject come alive and how they set the pace of their lessons to fit the kids sitting right there in front of them. It's the real art of teaching. But here's where the paradox really kicks in. When every teacher in every school is kind of charting their own unique course, that freedom creates a ton of variation. And for students, their journey through school can literally become a lottery. What one kid learns in one classroom might be completely different from a kid just down the road. And look, this isn't just some abstract theoretical problem. We're about to look at the real-world impact, the actual cracks that start to show up in the system, affecting the daily lives of both students and the teachers who are trying their best to guide them. Now, this slide really says it all. On the left, you've got the promise of the curriculum. Things like depth, real exploration, and broad learning. But then you look at the reality on the right, and what do you see? A frantic term dash just to cover content, a huge amount of pressure to teach to the test, and these big disconnects between different school years. And all that pressure, it kind of forces this impossible choice. And this quote just nails it. Is the number one priority teaching young people how to think, or has it just become a mad dash to cover a list of subject content? For a lot of teachers, it definitely feels like the second one. So if that's the problem, how in the world do we fix it? Well, the first idea is a big one, decluttering the curriculum. It's about clearing out all the noise and finding focus, using a model they're calling core and flex. This core and flex idea is all about finding a much smarter balance. So the core part means that the essential content and the standards for assessment are the same for everyone, agreed on at a national level. But the flex part? That's where teachers keep their autonomy to decide how they teach it all, their methods, their creativity. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. You see those first two bars, core content and assessment? They're nationally agreed, creating a solid, consistent foundation for every student. But that third bar, pedagogy, that's all about teacher autonomy. That's their space to shine. So we agree on the what, but they get the freedom on the how. And really, the main goal here is pretty simple. It's about letting go. By trimming down all the extra, unnecessary stuff, we create something precious, time. Time for teachers and students to go deeper, to make sure knowledge actually sticks, and to have learning that feels meaningful. It's a huge shift from quantity to quality. Okay, the next piece of this solution is about breaking down walls. You know how subjects are often taught in their own little boxes, their own silos? The idea here is to build bridges between them, to help students connect the dots and see the bigger picture. So how do you do that? It's not just about randomly mashing subjects together. It starts with a big, engaging idea that everyone can get behind. But, and this is so important, it absolutely requires dedicated time for teachers to plan together. You still keep the rigor of each subject, but you help students actually see how it all links up. And this quote right here gets to the heart of the matter. You want those connections to be purposeful, not just shallow. But that can only happen when teachers actually have the time and space to plan together. It's a system thing. You can't expect magic to happen if they never get a chance to collaborate. All right, our final piece of the puzzle tackles those broken bridges in a student's journey. We're talking about those really jarring transitions between school stages, like from primary to secondary, where it feels less like you're progressing and more like you're just starting all over again. I mean, just ask yourself this. Are our school transitions a smooth bridge that carries you to the next stage of learning? Or does it feel more like a total break, where you're forced to just hit the reset button and start from scratch? For way too many kids, it feels like a reset. And this timeline just shows that feeling so clearly. The jump from primary 7 to the first year of secondary school, bam, restart. And then it happens again between S2 and S3, and again going into the senior phase. Instead of building on what they've learned, we keep making them feel like they're starting over.
So mending these bridges isn't just wishful thinking. It takes real, concrete action. It means having that national agreement on core knowledge we talked about earlier. It means primary and secondary schools actually have to collaborate so they're speaking the same language. And it means using things like moderation for real conversations, not just for ticking boxes.
So, when you pull it all together, decluttering the curriculum, connecting the subjects, mending those broken transitions, it's all driving at one single crucial point. The goal is to create a clearer, more connected, and more coherent educational journey for every single student. No exceptions, no lottery. And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question. It's a challenge, really. Are we brave enough to actually let go of some of the stuff we've always taught in order to make room for something so much more important? Depth, clarity, and real coherence? It's a tough question. What do you think?